Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Witcher Bloodletting, Session 12. Ship off the old block. Oh, I know. I'm corny. I know. Go ahead. Go ahead. No? Okay.
Wait, does it even... It says Bloodlines for me still.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Where?
To the title of the stream.
Yeah, just
Oh,
refresh.
really? Oh, that's annoying. Give me 2 seconds. Give me 2 seconds, because I think that I forgot to press save. So that could actually be my fault. What's up, everybody? How was your week?
Busy.
Pretty good.
Busy? Yeah? Do anything fun?
Yeah, I'm hanging out in an ICT lab now to learn like coding stuff as a way to like unfuck my sleep all the time.
I mean, not fucking your sleep is generally a good thing. So, you said that you're doing it where?
Oh, it's close by. It's like 6 hours in the week. I just go there and like hang out and like talk to people.
That's cool. I mean, that stuff is genuinely a lot of fun to learn, anyways. And it says chip of the old block on the that's funny. Oh, jeez, good job, Scott. So that's cool. I mean, what kind of language are you learning?
Python currently. It's just like a basic course thing,
Yep.
like to get started.
Yep. I mean, Python's really good for like all back stuff, back engine stuff.
And then I'm gonna be having a chat with a bunch of people, and I might be moving in a room with them soon. So lots of stuff going on.
Sweet. Well, I'm glad that you had a good week. I'm going to assume everybody else had a good week as well. And if you didn't, don't really care. So let's recap very quickly what happened last week. By the way, if you refresh, it should be good to go now. Let's recap really quickly what happened last week. You guys kind of, confronted the whole situation with Malvoon. Going up to him and being like, hey, what the hell is happening? Is this child actually real? He, to his extent, confirmed it. The party kind of came to a divide. Are we going to assist the Scoia'tael in trying to sit a half-dwarf on the Redanian throne? Doesn't that sound ridiculous? Like, nobody would ever accept that. Well, half the party is saying, yeah, we would accept it. The other half of the party is saying, nah, no, we won't. Nobody will ever accept it. So it's like a big schism as to where it is you guys want to go next. The idea being you still kind of want to release yourselves of the contract that you have with the witch hunters. As a reminder, the way these contracts work, it's not like there's heavy magic that has some sort of geas, if you think of D&D spells, or some sort of like compulsion that requires you to finish this contract. That's ridiculous. That's not how Witcher contracts work. However, there's a certain degree of magic that goes in everything in this world, including the magic that exists inside of an oath in general. And so the idea is if you turn your back on a large contract, that in some way or another, there'll be payback will come your way. You'll be like, misfortune will find its way to you, which is what you're trying to avoid by doing a magical breach of contract. But moving on. You guys, I believe in general, are still trying to breach that contract. You decided to, head back to where the Scoia'tael were, because you came to the realization that there is an issue with the egg that you've been traveling around with for a long while. Apparently, the egg has been growing a beastie inside of it that hatched and happened to have attacked the camp, turning 6 of the dwarves into stone, 5 unnamed ones, and the leader. So you guys tracked down this beast and actually handedly destroyed it. It got a chance to kind of like look at a few of you, but everybody resisted its effects. You guys defeated this thing. I think you got 1 attack off, and that was it, if that one, After you defeated it, you went to go find Zadal. When you found him, you realized he was stone. So you already found that he was stone. Bran went up and found him and tried to change him back to one degree or another. He rolled some dice. The dice fell very poorly, and there was a flash of that like reddish kind of color that happens with his magic coming from the cave above. And then a few moments later, you saw Zadal kind of stumble out. It's at this point in time, also along the bastion, like you turned one of the horses to stone, a little mistake happened. But it was along this way that Tal actually, seeing all this happen, that flash of red light, and then Zadal kind of come out. He was kind of like, no, this ain't folk, no. Like he in genuine disbelief like took like a half step backwards, and the whole experience of fighting the basilisk in general, that wasn't a Drachnid, almost getting turned to stone because he felt like the magic's coming at him too and resisting them. Everything, he had a few extra drinks the whole while waiting for Bran to do his spell. So he took a couple steps backwards, ended up tripping over a rock that was behind him and getting knocked backwards onto his ass. Bumped his head, but nothing so ridiculous. However, it was at that same time that Bastion had accidentally turned one of the horses to stone, freaked out another horse, which in its freaking out accidentally kicked Tall in the head and knocked him clean unconscious. So unfortunately,
Really? That's how you're gonna write him off for the hour.
Bran's horse kicked Tall in the head and knocked him unconscious. So, all right, that is where we stand as of right now. And you have Zadal walking down the hill, kind of stumbling down the hill towards you guys. How do you guys react? What do you guys do?
Zadal, is Bran with you?
So you say this walking up towards him.
Yeah.
Okay. So you start walking up towards Zadal, just being like, Zadal, is Bran up there with you? And Zadal, stumbling the rest of the way down the hill, still got his kind of like his weapon in hand, because before he was just kind of like surprised whenever he pulls his weapon out. Had pulled his weapon out, stumbling down, holding it, and he's like looking about, genuinely confused. As he said, he stopped near the top to look at that first statue as he came out of there, and you guys had witnessed that. So he's looking genuinely confused for a second. You say the words. He blinks a few times, and it registers that you actually are speaking directly to him. And so he's like, Bran. Yes. Bran is, he's up there. Though, come with me. And he says, and starts like walking back up the hill, still just trying to collect his thoughts, because, he went through a bit of an experience. Do you say anything as you walk up with him?
No, I'm probably just sort of looking around. I'm helping him steady himself if he looks like he's having trouble at all.
Roll me a flat charisma check.
Right.
You cop a feel.
No, come on. So more or less, you're just using a genuine act of kindness of trying to help this guy out or whatever, and so there wasn't like any failure directly that could come from, you know what I mean? So it's just not success, you try to help the guy out, and to the best of your ability, and so you're helping him back up there, and when you get to the cave entrance, he's just kind of like, it hatched so quickly. It's kind of like what he says as you get to the cave's mouth. Do the other two of you follow? Sorry, do you follow with, or you stay down there to look after Tal? I don't know if you're the.
I guess I'll follow. I'll probably like lean Tal up on a tree, so he looks like he's sitting, and like maybe like drape something over his face, so it kind of like covers his eyes, so he looks like he might be asleep. And then I'll like pat him on the shoulder and follow behind.
Just because he's a big boy, can you do me a favor? Can you actually roll me an athletics check to lean him up on the tree?
I love that.
I feel like even if I fail this, it's still gonna work out exactly how I want it to. So I'll roll. What was it? Athletics?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, so you have no problem. You hoist him over and lean him up on the tree. Not a big deal. Okay, I was just seeing if we could have a little fun with it. So you lean him up on the tree exactly as you wanted to, and you just kind of like jog up after them and get to them more or less like you're approaching, as he's saying, "It just hatched so quickly. We didn't know. Hey," it's kind of like he puts two and two together for the first time. And then he looks at you a bit cross, and that weapon that he had in his hands the whole time, now he actually slowly starts to raise it. And this is as messy as Leonard is approaching. He's standing there in front of Bastion, starting to raise his weapon, and you hear him saying, "Hey, you gave us that that rotten thing. You know, he's like raising his arm, like not quite to attack now, but clearly preparing himself.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm raising my hands up, like, trying to diffuse the situation as I speak. We did not know. We tried to get here as soon as we could to stop this from happening.
Did your brain turn to stone too, old man?
He looks at you and he's got this like very cross look in his eyes. You can see he's got that like, unfortunately, you're very familiar with that stubborn dwarven look. That look like he's just made up his mind about something real quick, and nothing shy of a chisel and heavy hammer is going to be able to crack past that shell that's kind of like forming around his opinion. You know what I mean? And he's like, "You did this on purpose, didn't you?" And he starts
One
like,
to
swearing
you and
off.
two in Craig.
What did you say?
One to you and two in Craig.
Yeah, Craig. Where our kin have lived for a long time.
Not anymore.
Yeah, I can tell. You told me before that my companion is long since dead. I'm just
Consider
wondering
it
how it
witch
happened.
hunter revenge.
Witch hunters, the ones that you're working for. And he says that he's starting to make a little bit less sense, considering all the conversations you've had. And he's definitely squared off. And now he's kind of like preparing to just like full on attack you guys. I know that you go on to defuse the situation, but
Yeah.
you're going to have to roll me initiative really quickly.
Absolutely.
I feel like if I see him drawing his sword, I'll draw my sword too.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
to escalate a little bit.
I'll probably be getting my
Not clicked on myself.
but not a
Yeah.
weapon yet.
You have to click your tokens, boys, and then you can fix your own number to the correct one.
yeah.
You can't.
Look at these scrubs not even clicking the tokens.
Oh, let me click you initiative. He's like he has a big bonus to his initiative. Oh, but I rolled well. So of course ties go to PCs. So even though we both got a 19, it actually goes to you, Leonard. So I know Bastion wants to say some words. So unfortunately, you're going to probably want to make a diplomacy check behind the words that you say. So unless you're just saying words that don't intend to have like a check behind it.
No, I can wait. I can
okay.
wait for
Then Leonard, you get to go first. Obviously, he had his weapon drawn. You drew yours as well. Please, you go first.
Yeah, I'll pass and just wait.
Okay, cool. I was gonna say, and just to paint the scene, it's in the cave mouth. The cave mouth. Don't forget that this is like the entrance to where it was that all the dwarves were staying in before. It's not a particularly deep or broad cave, but the mouth itself isn't small either. So literally in the mouth is the dwarf and Bastion kind of like squared off, one by one side, one by the other. Messy Leonard is only about 10 feet away from the two of them, perpendicular to him, just outside of the cave. You don't hear anything inside the cave itself, and Tal knocked himself out down the hill. So you guys are standing there, kind of squared off. You drew your weapon, but you're preparing an action, right? You're waiting. What are you preparing an action for?
I think I'm just gonna wait for him to make the first move. Just get ready to parry.
Okay, so the idea is kind of like if he makes the first move, you almost want to like go up and parry for what's his name? For Bastion, because Bastion's immediately in
If
front
possible.
of him. Okay, cool. Generally speaking, that rule it doesn't, but you're not doing this as a reaction. You're doing this as like a kind of like a prepared action. So kind of like
Yeah, so I
rush
guess
up
I'll
and
take
block.
some steps up and be
Sure.
ready for it.
Sure, yeah. So kind of like you're inching forward, but you intend to like rush in, and I got you. You're definitely welcome to do that. Cool. So it's his turn, and he's going to and he's just going to be like, I finally see that you've just been here this whole time. You've just been trying to get the boy. Well, guess what? He's not here. And he says as he like swings the weapon at you, Bastion. So this of course triggers you immediately, Messy. Give me 1 second to make my attack at Bastion, and let's see how it plays out. Where are you? There you are, Bastion. Multi-attack. He's wielding a, I described it forever ago. It's not a sword, right? He's wielding a hammer. And it's
That'll be hard to
one-handed.
parry.
Okay, so Bastion's AC is only a 13. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so the first attack is definitely a hit, as he like, because your shield's not even out, is it? Yeah, no, because you were just trying to be like this. So go ahead, Messy. You roll your parry.
So I'll do that.
Yep.
And then
Roll a
parry is,
D8 plus Dex.
D8 plus Dex.
So you more or less you can. Yeah, no, you have to do that. Yeah.
Is that it? Oof.
Okay. So actually, you actually rolled pretty decent. Oh no, you rolled shitty. You just have a decent dexterity modifier. The first attack comes in, and you're actually able to rush forward and block the attack. So as he's swinging with this hammer down, you come up with your sword, and your sword's not particularly heavy, right? Your steel weapon is not particularly heavy. So it's not like you smack this weapon aside. You actually don't go for the hammer head itself. Instead, what you end up doing is you kind of like rush forward and slash at his hand and kind of catch the inside of his hand, which like loosens his grip and pains him for a second, and kind of like throw your body through his attack, kind of smacking it out wide because he loosened his grip. And you kind of like, now you're somewhat like a step and a half into the cave, squared off against him yourself. As his hammer goes out wide, and he's like, traitors! And he swings back the other way, and this time his attack's going to be at you, Bessie, because you kind of like threw yourself kind of between the two of them, swinging back in that way. Your AC is a little different. What is it?
15.
So my attack roll the second time was a 13. I thought I was going to hit him twice, but because you successfully parried his attack, I actually don't hit either of you. So he comes swinging back in again because you had knocked his attack out wide. He comes swinging in with it, and you're able to, step back and crouch down enough that it ends up clipping into a bit of stone around where your head or shoulder would have been prior, and you hear like his hammer smash against the stone and a bit of rock kind of chipping off and flying to the side as he yells out traitor one more time. Now it's Bastion's turn.
So I've still got no weapon or anything like that out.
Yeah, but you could draw it,
Yeah, well, actually, I'm gonna pull out my shield just for future attacks. But I'm just like,
if you want, I could try to disarm him because I have that ability now.
You can go for that on your turn. Yeah.
Okay.
Look, if you speak to Malvoon, he'll tell you everything that's going on right now. He was the one that created those eggs. We had no idea.
Roll a persuasion check, sir.
All right.
Ooh.
Oh,
Wow.
a really, really good one. Okay, do you want to use any Witcher sense?
No.
roll a dwarven guile resistance D1.
I'm gonna roll for a dwarven stubbornness. So give me 1 second.
Add 10 to your D20.
Let's see. Rolling for dwarven stubbornness is 1d. Yeah. Oh no.
It's real roll.
Roll it at like triple advantage.
Wait, is this really a roll?
Dwarven stubbornness? Yeah, it's totally an ability. No, I'm just kidding. So he actually listens and kind of calms down for a second, and you can. Simple fact of the matter is you're making clean logic, right? So he's like, Malvoon. So Malvoon is a traitor as well. Is that what you'd have me believe?
Are we still having this conversation?
Yeah. You're fine.
I don't believe he was a traitor. He was working with another mage, a mage that me and Leonard slayed a while ago. That's where we found the eggs. We didn't know that Malvoon was connected to it until afterwards. And he's the one that sent us here and told us to get it out of here.
Yeah, and incidentally, he didn't come too. Isn't that a little surprising?
Why don't you roll me a persuasion check, Dunce? But hold on a second. When you added that, were you intending to almost like an intimidation, or what was your? Or were you just trying to add to his persuasion?
I'm trying to flip it on Malvoon.
Okay.
Make him mad at me.
Okay, why don't you roll me a persuasion check first, there, Dunce? And then Messy, you roll me yours as well.
I'm not very persuasive, I must say.
That's okay.
Hmm.
Okay. So, you guys are, you say these things to him, and he seems to listen to everything that you say. And when you say, notice he didn't come, he'll actually turn to Leonard and say, he has his reasons to go where he does and when he does, and his reasons for creating such beasts, I imagine.
Sure.
He obviously lacking the conviction with that last bit. And so
Well, maybe the reason was to hurt you. Just kidding. I'm not going to say that.
he thinks for a second and will actually let the head of his hammer, kind of onto the ground and be like, fine. You can't be lying.
Now say you're sorry.
He actually looks at you. At first, his expression is hard. You can see his knuckles, his hand was still on the hammer, whiten for a moment. Like it looks like he's about to pick it back up. But then he draws a deep breath, and he lets it go, and he allows his hand to come off of the hammer's hilt entirely. He's like, I am sorry. It makes sense that you didn't intend for this to happen with what happened to Bran. Come, he says, and leads into the cave. And when you guys go in there, you actually do find Bran. Except Bran is completely made out of stone, or almost completely. There are a few things on him that aren't made of stone that kind of stand out as obvious, on his person. But Bran, would you like to describe yourself and how you're currently positioned?
If his eyes were in stone, he would have an intense look, and he's basically just standing there like full power blast, working his thing. But yeah, he's not looking as good as he once did.
Dramatic.
My God, he's dead and there's nothing we can do. I guess we'll have to leave him. Come on,
Conveniently, the coin purse that's not quite so fat anymore is not stone.
I'm probably just. Are you actually saying that in game?
He doesn't say that in game.
No, no.
I mean,
Oh,
I'm stoned.
no,
I
okay.
can't fucking say shit.
No.
Yeah, sure. You know what? Yeah, I said it in game. Yeah.
Of course you did. That's totally a hard thing to say.
Yeah. I probably not pay much attention to it and just
Okay.
approach with the vial that we've got and just start pouring it down his throat.
Wait.
The one you have is the one that's got blood and shit mixed into it.
No, he gave me both of them, didn't he?
Oh, that's right. He did give you.
I
both.
gave you.
That's why you
I
tripped.
gave you
That's
the
why
egg. I
tripped
gave
out.
you the
That's right.
flask.
Yep.
I'm trusting
I had a
with all
feeling.
these things.
All right, so
Bastion, before he's all there, maybe we should destroy that eye, seeing how dangerous it is.
I don't know. I still think that we might be able to use it. Look, we'll discuss this after everybody's okay.
Oh yeah, bring him back first.
Ow.
That'll make my conversation a lot easier.
We need to check on Tal too. Look,
Tal's fine. He's on a tree.
let me just finish this. So I'm gonna pour a good chunk of it just down your throat, and then other parts I'll probably pour on. you.
Moisturize me, daddy.
Moisturize you.
why don't you make for me a medicine check with advantage?
All right.
And Rick, why don't you hit another blunt, real quick, and we'll call it a sorcery high.
Oof.
Do you like your roll?
No.
Would you like to do anything about it?
I feel like
Can I assist?
Oh, he got advantage.
Oh, yeah, he did.
yeah, that's with advantage.
I wanted it to.
I feel like even with
If we fail this, is he gonna actually die?
Oh, that's a good question.
yeah, I don't know. Maybe if we got a natty one, I don't think he's just gonna die. But
Have I technically already died? Who knows?
I don't know if the Witcher sense would really help unless
That's a 6. A d6.
It's worth trying it just in case.
all right, yeah.
You'll
Don't
probably
forget-
waste less of the flask.
To add a Witcher sense, you don't even have to type it. If you actually are on the Roll20, the chat box area, all the way to the top and to the right, you hit the button that looks like a hamburger, and there's actually something that says Witcher Sense. You should be able to click that.
What?
Wow.
Do you see that? Yeah.
This?
Click the little D20 on it.
Did I just? What did I just? Do? Suck advanced?
Whoa. What are you doing, Bernard?
Yeah, that's actually how you use it. Ooh.
What did I just suck?
That's a good question.
So I don't know what you're referring to by suck advanced, but okay.
You don't see in the
My
chat?
stone.
Oh, that's weird. Huh, that's funny. I have no idea what that one is. But either way, so you see the Witcher Sense pops up. So you rolled a 3, getting you to a 7. So that's how it works, and don't have to worry about subtracting one because Silencio had already added one earlier in the session. So you're actually good to go.
All right.
So you use the Witcher Sense. So more or less, you rub it all over his body, and it does work. He does come back from being petrified. However, because you rolled so low on the medicine check, however, he comes back in a way that it's not like it's a smooth transition, nice and easy for him to come back. So he ends up taking 2 levels of exhaustion as a kind of a penalty for his spending time as a stone form. But Rick, this is a strange sensation for you. That slow and horrifying experience, turning into stone, knowing it's happening, but also seeing it's working in front of you, and just suffering the fates that you chose to suffer, and pushing on instead of trying to stop and save yourself, was genuinely frightening for yourself, right? However, you pushed on. And you had hope. You had a little glimmer of hope in your heart, and at least knowing that you were doing some sort of good, because this is a good man here, and you believe in his cause. So let's put aside all the terrible things that you did and finish it. Yay, you did. And here you are. Things seem to be coming back. Everything's strange at first, blurry. It takes a while for your eyes and your ears to make sense of what it is that you're experiencing. But eventually you do. And you are able to kind of like perceive the world around you. When you finally are able to move your limbs and kind of fall to the ground for a moment, every part about you aches. It seems as though you're still stiff, like there's still like your joints are made out of gravel. You know what I mean? They don't have a smooth fluidity that you do of being a spindly little nerd. They just have this like really almost stone on stone kind of feeling to them. You can literally hear it as you bend your knee, kind of like resonating through your body. So there he is, slumped to the ground, kind of gasping for breath. So that it happens all at once, but kind of fully works, comes to its full transition all at once where he can truly move himself. Flop to the ground. Brandon, go.
Just look around like dazed for a bit.
Are you okay?
Felt better.
So now that we all know the dangers of turning to stone, maybe we could talk about getting rid of that eye?
I ignore him. I look at Sadal and was like, it's good to see you up and about.
Likewise. He goes over and he puts his hand out to hoist you up, and wow. I gratefully accept. Yep.
There we go. I can word.
It's one of those things where, you know, sometimes like you ask your friend for a hand up, and it's kind of like, thanks. And sometimes you ask them for a hand up, and they like pretty much do all of the work. You just happen to be there. It's one of those situations where he like hoists you to your feet faster than you expect. Everything gets kind of like dizzying and whatnot. Like you get that blackened tunnel vision from like standing up too quickly, and you end up having to like place a hand on his shoulder to steady yourself. And you know, he kind of like grabs back at one of your arms. I imagine Bastion quickly comes over and steadies you as well. As kind of things come to, this is where you realize exactly, like, again, 2 levels of exhaustion, how hardly, like how heavily affected you were by that. And you know, you come to your senses. He's like, and you hear like your hearing starts to clear up again. I imagine Leonard making another snide comment about the eye during that time, and then kind of you come back to your full senses. He's like, that stuff you use, directing it towards Bastion, is there enough to help my people?
There's barely enough to get Bran out.
He nods.
Oh. We need to find a way.
We still have a flask, but it's diluted with blood. We might be able to extract and purify it with alchemy. These witches know their potions.
Still,
Our idea was to go and talk to Malvoon, see if we could maybe magically dilute it or something, so that we have more of it. But the creature's saliva is limited.
You're telling
Unless
me...
we go to Craig and tie up that loose end.
You're telling me that this happened because of Malvoon. I damn well expect him to fix it.
Hey.
Aww. Kitty purrs are the best. Oh, for a moment, you made me like cats for a second.
Sorry.
No, I know when cats are like super cuddly and purring and just want to like cuddle, and that like 15 seconds a day, like they're wonderful. And then they bite you and
he's
claw
like
at you and you throw them across the
15
room.
hours a day.
Yeah.
He was meowing. The reason why I was muted the whole time is because he kept walking around meowing, trying to get me to pet him. So I just gave in.
Seriously, like half of 1% of all like 18 billion cats on the planet are like actually good cats, and the rest of them should be under someone's tire. You know, I'm just saying we should have better breeding practices. So
You just need to take care of him better. Jeez.
Yeah.
my one cat that I ever owned, literally ever, was super, super sweet. I loved her so much. The only reason why I don't have her is because my wife hates cats even more than I do. And so we moved to an apartment where they didn't allow dogs or cats, but they allowed us to keep because like they loved us, so they allowed us to keep our dog. But they were like, the cat is an absolute no. Cats are disgusting. So we gave my cat to my wife's parents, and then we moved from there to an apartment where we could have a cat, and then to a house that I own. And my wife's like, no, never again. No. And I'm like, oh, I had that cat before I knew you. She's like, I don't care. It's at my parents' house. That's good enough. I'm like, okay.
It's banished.
Yeah. And the funny part is, so like, she used to be super cuddly with like my mother and father-in-law and stuff like that until they ended up getting a dog, but not like a real dog. One of those like 8 pounds, stupid dogs that everybody hates. It's an Italian something. I can't remember what they're called, but they're like really, really small, tiny things.
Are they like the big fluff ones? They're
No,
like
like very short haired, like how my dog is. So he also brindle colored. It's Italian something. They're really small. So they got that dog, and at first the cat and the dog would play around a bunch when he was still a puppy, and then the good dog got a little more aggressive with the playing, even though he's smaller than the cat at full size. He would do things like grab the cat by the back of the neck and like drag her across the house and stuff.
Cool.
And so like that was still kind of a degree of their playing, but then the dog started getting like super skittish about things. Like all small dogs get like, I'm scared of everything. So then the cat banished herself to the basement, and now the basement's the size of the whole ranch house. So like she owns the entire basement, and when everybody else is sleeping, comes around upstairs. So every time we go over there, my daughter's always like, I want to see the basement kitty. And so like we go downstairs and we spend time in the basement so she can play with my old cat. So, yeah. Anyways, her name was Brat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Endearing, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Hey, should we get
back on track?
Talabest?
Yeah. Oh no, fuck that guy. We'll get him in a little bit.
Fuck him.
We'll get him a little bit. How dare he go on a trip? So, you guys, so you say to him that whole bit, and he's like, for blah, blah, blah. You mentioned he's like, and if he had a part in this, he'll definitely be, I expect him to fix it. And then he looks to the two of you, and you guys, and he's like, but you're saying there's more of these creatures, that they might be free in Craig.
Yeah.
There were 2 other eggs up in the nest. Yes.
I don't know much about creatures that hatch from eggs, whether they be chickens or iguana. Do they tend to hatch at the same time, or could there be a delay?
They
I imagine
could
there
have
might be a
hatched.
slight variance.
Yeah, they could have hatched a few days ago. They might hatch a few days from now. It's really hard to tell.
I wonder if environment has something to do with it. It's warm in the cave, and it was kept in the back room. He goes and leads you guys to the rest of the cave area where the actual thing was. We had discussed this beforehand, where it was sitting on the table where it actually hatched. If you had it beforehand, he kind of like offers for you guys to take the shell of the egg. I think Bastion may have beforehand because he rolled well or something like that before. But if you hadn't, he offers for you to take the shell of the egg itself. And he's like, I imagine then I should fill you in on what's happening. I'm sorry again, he says to Leonard, and then looks to Bastion for my accusations. But the boy is gone.
I look around for a second, like, honestly, given the turn of events, I think that was a good call.
It was not because of these events, it was because of you. I understand that you say that you're here to aid us. My heart wants to believe you. But the simple fact of the matter is I can't simply take your word at just that, at just the word. I have to have reason to believe. You have to prove a little further. I've filled you in on much information, more than I would share with most. But I need to keep him safe. I have moved
Bran
him to
kind
another
of
camp.
smiles, because, like, his action of, like, trying to turn him to flesh again is kind of being vindicated right before his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like,
Just
I'm
understand.
glad he's with you, of all people.
Nods. He's gone with Jun Run, so you know that he's safe. Besides, having 3 Witchers in one area was freaking me out a little. He says somewhat jokingly, but only somewhat.
We're not all bad. Not all of us are like Leonard over there. I'm gonna nudge Leonard. I'm
Give them a
joking.
few weeks and they might try to establish a new school here.
He chuckles a little bit at that. Actually, finally able to find some humor. He says,
At my expense. Thanks. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
If you don't mind, I want to trust you. You had said that you're trying to breach this contract, work with Malvoon. Let's finish that. Let's finish the breaching of the contract. And when that finishes, then I'm willing to even share with you where it was that I had sent him. So you can aid me in this. I know you find it important, and we do have a bit of a plan. This isn't something that we're going to go at haphazardly, throwing ourselves at the cause. There's a plan behind it, and I'd love to fill you in. But first and foremost, Crag is important. The people there are important. I can't stand to think that how many... It's a home that's genuinely safe, even outside of Temeria, if on its border, to many of my people. And the witch hunters have probably made their lives difficult. I can only imagine how much worse they are now. Let's speak with Malvoon, and then hopefully you'll take care of Crag. Now, of course, you guys being witchers, hunting these things is what you do, but generally you don't do it for free. So I imagine that's crossing your minds. But he says, you said Tal had hurt himself. Perhaps we should go and make sure he's all right. And he starts kind of like walking from the cave.
I'll follow with him.
Did any of you guys have any questions to ask of him while you were kind of like with him?
Not immediately.
Okay. He goes over and he goes down with you guys to look at Tal. Honestly, the best medic out of all of you happens to be Bran. But you see Tal kind of leaned up against a tree, and he looks at it, and he looks at like the hoof mark on the side of the guy's head. And that's one of those things where Bran, roll a medicine check just to get like a gauge of him.
He's dead.
Honestly, you're looking at the thing and you see the hoof mark on the side of his head. It's like a legit like shape of a hoof over by the side of this guy's head. And you know that he was having some drinks beforehand. I don't know, being that intoxicated, a mark like that, the blow that would do that. I mean, you can see he's breathing. Like you can feel his pulse. There's no question about that. However, it's a very slow pulse. You're thinking like, concussion at the very least. He might have genuine brain damage. Like you're looking at this thing and you're like, the blow that he took to his head, you're assuming it's very likely he has brain damage. Beyond that, he took this blow to the head in such a way that, like, I mean, and then he was moved afterwards. If he took any form of spinal or neck injury from that hit, and then he was moved by Leonard afterwards, it's very, very possible that he could have, like, broken his neck or done some serious damage to his spinal cord. That's a little concerning to you. Do you say anything as what's his name's looking him over? Zadal's looking him over.
Do I have an idea? Do I get the feeling that magical healing would help him in any way, or is he just a lost cause? I mean, I know he already was to begin with, but you know, even more so now.
Roll me an Arcana check, actually.
Finally, something I have something I'm good at.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So let's assume for a second he does have brain damage, but he's not dead. Yes, sir.
I want to point out, you said that Bran was the best
Yeah,
medicine?
I realized that when I saw the modifier afterwards. I was like, actually, I think you do with a +1, with +2.
I have +2.
Yeah, nobody's trained in it, which is funny. But he handles the medical stuff most often.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So, you know that if it was simply like an injury you've healed that a ton of times, there are types of magics that actually you almost tried to tap into that kind of magic yourself when you were trying to heal, what's his name? Zadal. Less than an hour ago. You tried to tap into that kind of magic yourself that would be able to cure things like actual brain damage. Something like that is not very easy for you to do. So do you say anything at this point?
Yeah, I'll give him like a second look, and it's like, well, I've seen things like this before I was forced to make off.
Like this. Things like this.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time that a peasant boy got knocked in the head by a horse.
Aye.
Some of them come out of it differently.
Aye.
Doc, what are you trying to say?
I'm telling you that he's an idiot, but we already knew that. He might be more of an idiot when he comes out of it, though.
My God. Well, there's nothing we can do for him. I guess we should just leave him.
I didn't think
Yep.
he was that
Pee on him, elude him.
Is it? All right. He's like kind of like chuckling. Like once again, considering the fact that 5 of his people are turned to stone, the others have clearly scattered and ran off, and he needs to try to find them. Malvoon is potentially a bad guy or did bad things. Despite all the gravity on Zadal, he's actually chuckling at you guys back and forth and whatnot. And he's like, no. And because he's still examining his back and everything, and he'll actually grab him by one of his shoulders and kind of like flop him onto his side, and kind of like his face is in the dirt. And he's, continues like pressing on his spine down his back. He's like, he's fine. The spine's fine. Everything seems fine. He's just got to have a whopping headache. And he says, and he kind of like leans over and starts like trying to slap him in the face or whatever. Not like hard, heavy hits, but like, hey, boy, time to come on. Tal,
I
time
mean,
to wake
we've
up.
seen the amount of drink he had. It was gonna have a headache regardless.
Do you have some kind of dwarven hangover cure?
He's like, aye, rye. And then he steps back for what's his name? Bran to kind of go in and cast like a cure wound spell on him to heal him up. What level spell do you want to use?
We'll go second level, because I'm nice.
Okay, so you toss your second level spell at him, kind of bringing him back to his senses. He starts to wake, a bit groggy at first. As he's like starting to wake, groggy, kind of like, rolling and like grabbing this side of his head immediately where this like imprint is in his head. Your healing of the spell, can you roll it for me? Actually, I want to see how much damage you healed. Just kind of like play it out. Oh, you rolled really well, actually. You rolled really, really well. So with that being said, with you rolling a 7 and a 6, you actually, when you do the wound, like the imprint in his actual like head that would have taken like a long time to heal is completely healed. It just leaves behind like a red mark, like a U-shaped mark. Not like the full U. It's not like, his head's not that big, but like a small little U mark and like the one studded spot where like a nail would have been. Just a little ring in there.
If you rolled a 7 and a 6, why does it say 10?
10 and 6 above it. So you see higher level cast 6, and then the regular one 10.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, it's like a
Does it-
separate
oh,
roll
the second
thing.
one gets the modifier. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of cool how I actually like that it shows that, because kind of like allows you to appreciate the difference between casting regular and casting higher level. So moving on, it leaves behind like a little red mark on it, but actually completely cures any like skull damage or imprint or whatever that would have taken a long time to heal. You actually do a good job. So he's kind of like rolls over and immediately kind of grabs at his head. Clearly he's going to have like a nasty headache or whatever, but he's not going to have a concussion. You actually limit with a high enough roll like that, you eliminate any other status effects I was going to apply to poor Neil for just being an adult this morning.
Being late.
Yeah, well, he was adulting. So you actually take care of all that. Zadal, like, while he's kind of like rolling over and groaning, kind of gives like a heavy pat on the back. That, honestly, because he did have a little bit of spinal damage, but nothing like so much that was like actual damage. Like, it was achy. Kind of like he's like, ugh. He stands up and says, "It's time I find my people. Speak to Melvoon, and then if you're heading to Crag, speak to me afterwards. If not, then just come find me. But speak to Melvoon, and then we can talk again. I'll gladly fill you in on anything else that I have." And this time he actually will go over to Bastion and shake Bastion's hands and kind of like give him a hard look in the eye and say, "I'm glad I didn't hit you, friend. I'm afraid of what it could have done." and like, gives you a firm handshake. And then he goes over to Leonard and gives him another hard look. He extends his hands. Does Leonard take it?
No. He'll avert his eyes and just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bran will sort of look at you, not saying anything, but he will look at you while you're doing that.
He lets his hand linger for a couple seconds, and then when you clearly are not going to take it, he lowers it by his side. He kind of like he understands. Like, no insights checks needed. Like, you completely get that he understands the gravity of what he did. He's like, "You saved me more embarrassment, and you've done me much aid. Again, I'm sorry. Hopefully I can make it up to you as you've been trying to me since you've taken this contract." And he'll stand there for like another extra second, and then he turns and starts kind of like walking off. And as he like heads over and out of sight over to a hill, because again it's dark now, over and out of sight over a hill, he kind of lets out this like strange kind of call, this funny sounding call that actually I imagine neither what's your names there?
Any of us?
Leonard or Bran know what it is, but somewhere like in the back of your mind, Bastion, like this sound, you're very familiar with this animal sound. Roll me a nature check.
Are you calling dwarves animals?
He made a call, kind of like, Rufio.
Calling all my homies.
So you actually, he lets out this call, and it's actually one that you're familiar with. It's actually, so there's this, you know how there's like different types of birds or whatever that live all over the place, right? Well, there's a particular type of loon. It's a Temerian loon that is well known to live in kind of like the ponds and lakes and whatnot. Though they are like in other regions around, but they're one of like the iconic Temerian animals that live in like the ponds and everything that are known to grow like the Temerian lilies. So it's like an iconic creature to this land. Loons have almost like, if you don't know in real life, almost like a coyote kind of howl. And they usually make their noise late at night. Actually, if you don't know what a loon sounds like in real life, you might think it's coyote and get scared while camping. So they have like a different kind of howl. It almost sounds like it's a couple octaves lower than what a typical loon noise would be. And he does an almost perfect interpretation of that as he kind of like walks off making this noise. And then even further off, because he has the most keen ears, what's his name? Leonard actually hears like a call back far off to the side, leading you all to believe like, okay, he's kind of like reuniting with the others. With that being said, why don't we take our first break, allow Neil to rejoin us with a bit of a headache, and we'll see you all in about 5 minutes, okay? So go pee.
Just go ahead telling lunatics.
Arr.
That's not a loom.